Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to a slightly longer than usual preamble. Now if you've been here for a while, you'll know that those immortal words don't always bode well for the watch that I'm about to review. In fact, the last time I welcomed you to a slightly longer than usual preamble, I think it was for the Bernard London, a watch that got a D rating and I viewed as a bit of a cynical cash grab. And when a notoriously tight-fisted Scotsman regards your watch as a cynical cash grab, it's not a good thing, is it? Today, it's my first encounter with the brand Thomas Earnshaw. Now, Thomas Earnshaw are part of the Dartmouth Brands group that includes Dufa, Ballast, James McCabe, AV8 and Spinnaker. Now I looked at a couple of McCabes very early on in the channel, I thought they were alright. Looked at a couple of AV8s more recently, I thought they were alright. But I do quite like Spinnakers. You know, vintage style dive watches, sapphire crystal, Seiko NH35s, all between about $200 and $300. I review them fairly regularly and the videos always seem to go down quite well, they get a lot of views. And you'll see Spinnakers everywhere on YouTube. I reckon they must send a dozen out to reviewers. It seems that social media marketing works for the brand. Now they've offered me Thomas Earnshaws before, but I've always politely declined. Never really saw anything that I liked about the brand. A lot of complication and skeletonization, unspecified Chinese movements, not quite sure what you describe them as. Neo-Regency, Regency steampunk. Anyway, they got in touch with me recently and they said, "Hi Jody, we've got a brand new flagship Thomas Earnshaw model and we'd love to send you one out for review. Limited edition and Swiss made this time with a proper Sellita SW500 movement in it. Full disclosure, I don't have to send this one back after I review it." And they said it was going to be retailing for, wait for it, £3,250. That's 4,300 US dollars. Now I looked at the spec list, Swiss made, Sellita 500, comes on a leather strap, and I couldn't really see where the money was going to go. In fact, I'm going to do a bit of a pop quiz, a bit of a survey here. This is the Thomas Earnshaw long case that I'm about to show you, £3,250. This is an Omega Speedmaster, £3,200 from a randomly selected British jeweller. Put your hands up if you'd buy the Earnshaw over the Omega. Yes, that's pretty much what I had expected. On paper, I'm not really sure what they could possibly do to this watch to justify charging that much money for it. Let's flip the camera and see if the watch itself can change my mind. Oh dear, it's already not looking particularly good for the Earnshaw today, is it? Well, if you're going to pitch your price directly against one of the most iconic Swiss-made chronograph watches of all time, perhaps you're going to struggle a little bit to meet the expectation of customers. Perhaps then the question should be today, how much is this watch actually worth? What's a realistic price? How much would you be prepared to pay for it if you were to buy one? We start with a fairly simple outer cardboard box. Contained within is it's okay, a fairly plain wooden inner box. And we've got a couple of fairly flimsy bits of card advertising that it is a limited edition. Not exactly what you get with a Speedmaster, I'm afraid. So we'll go through some basic dimensions and specifications. I'll get this one on wrist inside and outside. It is wet outside today, but this does have 50 meters of water resistance. There's also a touch of lume on the hour and minute hands, so I'll show you that. And as noted in the intro, Sellita SW500. My first encounter with this lovely chronograph movement. It's a clone of the ETA Valjoux 7750, and I haven't been disappointed with this one. I've got an accuracy report, and it's a good one. So they call this a long case chrono, 43mm in diameter, about 15.5 millimeters thick. Lug tip to lug tip is 49.5 to 50, so it's fairly big, but still wears quite well. 22mm lug width, and on this supplied leather strap, the whole watch weighs in at 107 grams. So it's a decent sized watch, but it is not unwieldy. Perhaps you've noticed already the insane purple pop from the AR coating on the domed sapphire crystal. Now, double domed, but there is quite a nice bit of distortion when you get to the edges of the viewing angle, which I think is good. Not as much as you get from a piece of single dome, they tend to be illegible, but this one really crazy AR. Not sure if that purple goes necessarily with the black and the gold of this model. There are 3 other models to choose from. I'll obviously leave a link in the description of the video if you are interested in one of these. There's a black one, there's a silver one, there's a rose gold one, there's a couple of other different colours. So this one is rose gold IP coated, 316L stainless steel, 3-piece case, and stainless steel pushers and crown as well. Nice little onion crown. It's quite difficult to wind the movement, but I guess this one, being quite fresh, I'm sure it will loosen up a little bit with some more use. Zoomed in on the dial, and there is a lot going on, that's for sure. Multiple layers, we've got Romans around the outside, we've got a tachymeter bezel, we've got hour markers, and then we've got these 3 distinct chronograph rings here. Date around the day-date complication, a little frame there, the Earnshaw logo, Swiss made. Plenty happening. Nice brushed handset, actually. The hands do look pretty good. And a kind of semi-translucent dial. You can see most of the way through, there's a kind of hint of a tint there, if you see what I mean. And you can see the date wheel of that day-date complication. So again, in keeping with the overall Earnshaw look, it's classical, but it's also kind of skeletonized and modern looking as well. I'll leave it up to you as to whether it is successful in hanging all of this together. There's certainly plenty to keep you amused. The case back is thankfully quite a bit cleaner. Nice and shiny, high polish. You can see my Star Trek t-shirt there, I'm sure. Limited edition, 122 out of 280, reminding you why you paid £3,000 for this one. Water resistant, 5 atmospheres, all stainless steel. ES0033 is the specific model number, and Swiss automatic movement sapphire crystal. All pretty straightforward stuff, and I wouldn't say it was screwed down, it was screwed on, helping with that 50 meters of water resistance. So let's pop up the timing chart then. This one did rather well for itself. Being a clone of the 7750, it has 25 joules, it hacks, it hand winds, it runs at 4 Hertz, so 28,800 vibrations per hour, and in the Barrington winders for about 10 days, came in very consistently indeed, plus 5 seconds per day, so you can't complain about the movement in this one. My first encounter with the SW500, but I'm a bit of a fan of Sellita. I think their movements are more consistent and more reliable than the ETA equivalents, and this one hasn't disappointed. Standard chronograph operating procedure, 1 press of the top pusher to start the timer. Now the subdial at 9 o'clock is the ticking second hand. We've got 30-minute chronograph timer and 12-hour chronograph timer at the 6 o'clock. That's what the other 2 subdials are for. Because it's a 4K movement, this little chrono hand is ticking away nicely at 8 ticks per second. 1 push of the top one to stop, 1 push of the bottom pusher, and it will snap back nicely to 12. Doesn't feel as notchy, not as hard to depress as the ETA 7750s are, so again quite impressed with this Sellita movement. The leather strap is alright. I mean, nothing special. Full croc, genuine leather, embossed. Standard stuff, quick release spring bars. Not exactly screaming luxury here either. This is the Earnshaw brand standard buckle and tang, colour matched and printed with the logo there. As noted, there is some loom on the hour and minute hands, but they haven't done anything about looming the chrono. Doesn't really last all that long, not all that convincing, I'm afraid. And that's it on my 7-inch wrist. Certainly has a bit of wrist presence thanks to 15.5mm and 43mm in diameter. Black and gold, quite a nice colour combination. However, it is rather dominated under my studio lights anyway by the crazy purple AR coating on the sapphire crystal. But in spite of all the complications on the dial and the kind of semi-transparent look to it, it's actually quite legible. The hands are a decent size, decent shape, and in proportion to the overall look. You shouldn't have any difficulties telling the time on this one anyway, which is a relief, because it's a watch. And taking it outside into some natural light and some natural water, it still remains pretty legible, though that purple AR really does dominate the look overall. When you get it on wrist, as noted, it fits quite well. There is that Earnshaw branding inscribed on one side, on the opposite side to the chrono pushers. Again, that's not going to be to everyone's taste. Some brands do it, Squally and Invicta notably. I'm never a fan, but it's not a deal killer for me. But let's be honest, the price killed this particular deal before I had even opened the box. I'm just not quite sure what they're doing. Putting together a bunch of parts, assembling them in Switzerland, and trying to charge £3,000. They're going to have to do quite a bit better than that as a brand if they want to start commanding those prices. I mean, you can limit something to 280 pieces, but frankly, good luck selling 280 pieces, especially as the overall effect of the watch isn't all that convincing. It doesn't look like a luxury watch. So how much do I think this Earnshaw Chrono is worth then? Maybe $1,000. It's a nice movement, sapphire crystal. Some people are going to like the look. What's that, about 800 quid? I think that's probably a much more realistic price than the £3,000 that they're trying to charge for it. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment below. Please keep the expletives down to a minimum. Thank you. So there you have it, the Thomas Earnshaw long case Swiss-made chronograph then. Not a bad watch, but their pricing department must be high on crack to think it can get away with charging £3,250 for it. Now, as mentioned, if you dig around, you may well be able to pick up a discount on this one. If you're interested in it, then I suggest you hang on until they slash it by 60 or 70%. Did I stitch them up like a kipper? Have I set up Thomas Earnshaw? Did I accept a watch from them knowing that it was going to get a bit of a kicking in the review? Well, perhaps I did, but if they're going to send a watch that they claim is worth £3,250 to a reviewer that they know concentrates on value, then who's really setting up whom today? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one, which probably won't be a Thomas Earnshaw review.